and gentlemen, welcome back to the OPL. I've been away for a couple of weeks, and it is lovely to have your company here for round 6. It's a super week. I'm joined here at the desk by Joshua Jish Kahamison and also Brandon Juves Defina.
Spot on with the names.
Thank you. I was practicing in the mirror before, and I didn't want to muck it up, and I didn't. So
he messed it up like 10 times in rehearsal, so I don't think he's perfect though.
Yeah, it just takes a while. Look, I've been away. So in the time that I was away, though, we had a super week. So the table is all over the place. So how are you boys doing this week?
Oh, I'm pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay. I'll be better after Sunday.
Why? What's happening on Sunday?
Versing the great Josh Carr-Hamilton.
You've messed it up already.
I did.
And that will be so. But let's take a look at the schedule for today's game or this evening's games. We're going to kick things off with AV taking on Regicide, and then it's the top of the table clash: Legacy versus Direwolves. The winner of which could go to the top of the table. Could. Well, it kind of depends. I think there's going to be some points. The points are still to be defined. Then tomorrow, Abyss take on Tainted Minds. AV Gaming take on the Chiefs. Direwolves versus TM on Sunday. And then it is the match of the desk, the match of the analyst desk. It is Jish's Chiefs taking on Juves' Sin. And are you feeling confident for this, either of you? Who's feeling confident? Anyone want to give us a spicy preview of Sunday evening?
I think we're both confident. Jish thinks he's the best in OS, and I think we're better than Jish.
Rank 0.
Can't argue with that logic, I guess. Hey, no.
Well, as our team here at the OPL is ever expanding, we'd like to introduce you to someone who's going to be doing all of our interviews today during the broadcast. You would know her from the world of esports. Say hello to Sarianne. Hello, how are you?
Hello, good to be here. How are you?
I'm real well. Are you going to be talking to all of our players as our sideline reporter today, as well as the coaches? Is there anyone in particular who you're looking forward to meeting today?
I'm looking forward to talking to everyone, actually, but I feel like if I don't say I'm looking forward to talking to Jish, he might get a bit angry, so we'll go with that one.
How do you feel about that, Jish? You feel nodding along with that? You feeling good?
Yeah, I have to transfer that. I have to transfer her for that now.
Excellent stuff. All right. Well, Sarianne, thank you so much for speaking to us, and we will see you soon after Champ Select.
Thanks. See you soon.
Cool. All right. Well, that is all of the admin out of the way, so let's get to our first game of the day, AV versus Regicide. Now, I think AV would be disappointed with their result last week, but Regicide got their first win of the split, Jish. So, I mean, where is this game? Who is looking hot going into this game?
Yeah, so it's sort of two teams on different trajectories, right? Avant came into this split, quite stable. They had the same roster, and you thought that they would just build upon that slowly and improve. And Regicide, they were such like a mystery really coming into it. We saw them as like a good team and challenger, but no one knew how well they'd fare in the OPL.
Yeah, I think a team that makes a lot of roster swaps can't really have expectations going into the split. I feel like it's really unrealistic to think that Regicide could have been a top 4 team. I think they just should take the season as it comes.
Expectations though, they're saying that they're not the relegation team, right?
This is from Chenny Boy. He said, "Look, we are not the relegation team." And in terms of the roster swaps you're talking about, I mean, they've had, I think, 3 different supports so far this split. They started off with K-pop. We've also, now we're at a point where they've got Chen Xuan in, who is teaming up today with Keru, who's stepping in for Chenny Boy. So it's all over the shop for Regicide.
Yeah, so from what I know of them two, they're like the dynamic duo. They played OCS together. They're like brethren, and they're like, I guess they both got the gig at an OPL team, and they just decided to come over together.
Yeah, no, interesting. I mean, no one really has a great read on them. Obviously, they don't have an extensive history. They have played together, as you said, in the OCS. And I guess in the OCS, they looked pretty good as a duo. You need to see how that translates to the OPL, but, definitely promising.
One of the things that's interesting about this team is they are a Mandarin language team. They've talked about that. And previously, their support players in K-pop, for example, haven't spoken Mandarin. This lineup that we're presenting today is going to be a full Mandarin-speaking roster.
Well, one thing that I spoke to Chenny Boy about was it's hard for him to actually translate in-game. Because sometimes, just at the pace of the game, they'll find themselves talking in Mandarin when they have an English-speaking support. And then Chenny Boy will have to translate that to the support. And I guess that just like kind of plays around with the communication and the synergy of the team. So it's going to be interesting to see with this swap if things go smoother and if their rotations, their macro improve, their team fighting. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think especially for someone who had to play the 80 carry role as well, something that's quite demanding and taxing, like, at least on your fingers. I don't know how much he does for macro, but he obviously had a very, very full plate, and the translation on top of that just makes it way harder.
Juice, do you have to do any translation in your team? I know there's a
just the Western Sydney, Western suburbs kind of translation.
boys,
rotate over there, boys.
Excellent. All right. Well, the final thing I want to talk about for these teams before we get into their lineups as well is these drafting choices we've looked at from both the teams. I think for Regicide in particular, they've been drafting a lot around their top lane of Paradise. Is that what they're going to do today, Jish?
So I think we saw that they can draft around ZZZ. Obviously, that's the player we point out most weeks.
Yeah, I said Paradise is his old name. My apologies. ZZZ.
Goes by Aries Size too, if you want, so whatever. No, I think that they have drafted around him a lot, and he's obviously one of the powerhouses. I think where they've shown a little bit of weakness is in that middle lane, and specifically against Avant, the team that Triple's playing very well right now, probably the best performing player on that roster, right? And I think that if you're drafting around blind pick mids, it's pretty dangerous to head into triple cheese, as he's previously known, triple now. I think that they have to play probably a blind pick top lane in this series rather than the mid.
While I do agree with Juice, that's a very good point. I also think that another way that that Regicide can go about winning this game is saving counter pick for top lane and just blind picking a really safe mid laner. If Soyman can get onto the Orianna and just stay really safe in lane, because there's not too many counters to Ori, and you can get the counter pick to ZZZ and Fade can put work into that top lane, I can actually see a win condition amounting for Regicide.
We just saw then on the graph we put up there, Triple is doing about a third of his team's damage in the mid lane, which obviously mid lane is, they do a lot of damage, but that's quite high compared with other mid laners across the OPL.
Yeah, and even last week we saw him just saying like 40, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously performing very well recently, and I think he's shown like quite a bit of flexibility in his picks too. He can play the control mage, he plays the assassins. So I think that he's probably the powerhouse that they have to look to for this game.
While Triple doesn't really solo kill his lanes, you don't see him making highlight reels out of his mid lane opponents. One thing he does really well is he plays the map really well. He knows where to be and what to do.
All right, let's take a look at the Regicide, the AV lineup as they're getting ready. We're just speaking about them and go through them, shall we? Their top laner is Series. Their jungler is Sibol, who's doing some breathing exercises there. Triple is their mid laner who we just spoke about. And their bot lane is comprised of AD carry Blinky and support player Jake, who's in, I would say, very specific contemplation there. Just kind of maybe thinking about these picks and bans, what pitch is going to choose them. And I feel like their bot lane, Blinky and Jake, they're yet to really pull out that fantastic performance we saw from last split a bit.
Yeah, I think we've commented on it before. It's not to beat a dead horse, but they really do look like that middle of the pack bottom lane right now. That's probably maybe the next area that they have to start looking to. If they want to break into the top four, Blinky and Jakey need to not be like a liability for the rest of their team. I guess they really need to push themselves forward.
Well, their opponents across this rift are going to be Regicide today, so let's go through their lineup, shall we? Their top laner is ZZZ. Their jungler is Fade. Their mid laner is Human, who we spoke about before. Their AD carry is Kedu today, stepping in for Chenny Boy. And the support is Shen Xuan, who has come up through OCS, played a bit of Challenger with him. And yeah, I'm excited to see this new lineup from Regicide.
Yeah, well, one thing that I'm really excited about in this lineup is Fade. I think last week, Fade really popped off on that Kha'Zix, and he kind of showed the caliber that he does possess as a jungler. He can actually just solo carry games. Whether or not it's improving his champion pool, so when his champs do get banned out, he still has the ability to pop off and carry. But I'd love to see him and how he interacts with Sibol, because I feel like they're two contrasting playstyles.
Yeah, that's like one of the really gratifying things to watch in a best of three, right? You see they're like, all right, ban the Kha'Zix.
Yeah.
Game 2, ban the Kha'Zix. Game 3, we see it slip through, and everyone's just sitting there like, yes,
What's
here it
gonna
comes.
happen?
And then he had such a good performance, and it was really exciting to see him. He even had like a good Nidalee performance earlier. He's played really good in Lee Sin. He hasn't shown a lot of tendency to play the tanks, so see how he goes from there, I guess.
All right, well, let's get your guys' predictions then before we get into that first match of the day. Jesh, who's going to win this one?
So I think both these teams are a little bit inconsistent at the moment, but I'm going to give it to Avant. I think the triples have been stepping up a lot, and I'm going to say 2-1.
All right.
I'm going to, I guess, echo what Jish just said. I'm going to go 2-1 with AV as well. Well, I think Triple's too good right now for that Regicide lineup. But I do think that in the game that Regicide win, ZZZ and Fade will just absolutely pop off.
All right, let's take a look at your predictions at home, opltips.com.au, and AV, the heavy favourites, with over 80% of people thinking they're going to take it. But I will say the majority of people think this is going to be a 3-game series. So if you're right at home, it's going to be a long, long time. Oh, sorry, it's going to be a long series this evening of 3 games. But only 1.8% of people think it's going to be a 2-0 to Regicide. Is that people on Regicide have voted for that?
I think, yeah, that must be the management of Regicide. No. But no, look, it's League of Legends. Anything can happen. Everyone's, like, I don't think there's any really, really bad player in the game. So if one lane or one person gets a lead, I can just see it developing into an even bigger lead and a bigger snowball. And everyone in this game knows how to snowball leads. That's the thing about Regicide is they're really good mechanically. They can snowball leads. Whereas Avant, I feel they're really good as a team, really good as a unit, and they do make proactive 5-man plays around the map.
Which is sort of what they have to rely on, right? We watched them take a game off Direwolves, you know, in that. I'm going to call it like that. I want to say they had 5 tanks, but obviously they didn't have 5. But it looked like it at some points in those team fights. So they had like a really good performance in Game 1 against Direwolves, and then Game 2 was probably the most one-sided game ever in the OPL to Direwolves, and then Game 3 actually looked quite plausible they could take it. So it isn't as though like they have no upside and there's no chance they can win this series.
Absolutely. Well, if you're watching at home and you're a top laner, do tweet us your questions about the top lane matchup. Any kind of any questions you've got, whether it's champ selects, whether it's runes, masteries, whatever you want. ZZZ going up against series. Tweet #ImOPL or @OPL. But I believe it is time for us to get into our first game of the day. So let's throw it over to you casters. It is Spawn and Fish.
Thanks, guys. I'm Matthew Stewart. Joining me is Jake Spontaberry, and we're into week 2 Super Week. You know, great things happening. You're back as a caster. We've got Jish and Juice on the desk. Serian's joining us. Unfortunately, Michael Hing is back as well. But we can look past that a little bit.
I missed you so much, Fish. Don't leave me again.
We're about to get into game number 1 of tonight. It's going to be Regicide taking on AV.
Yeah, it should actually be a cracker. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think Regicide finally showed us what they were made of last week when they were able to take down TM Gaming, a squad that looked to be on the up, but unfortunately has now had some struggles. And I think that AV, whilst they did show some moments versus Direwolves, you know, 2 weeks ago, dropping that series last week against Abyss Esports was unexpected, Fish. And they are really back to square one and trying to rebuild a season around this squad.
It certainly is, and we'll have to see how they do heading into Game 1 against Regicide. We have to take note that the Regicide have lost 3 bans in their first match today due to failing to adhere to roster submission requirements.
And you have to think, is Kedu worth it, Fish? Is the young AD carry, the Cogmore main, going to be able to pull it out now that they don't have any bans? Because you have to think that that's what the roster markup was. I think he was actually born 17 years ago on the 22nd. So I think he's 17 years old in 6 days. So a brand new, fresh one coming into the OPL. I've heard a lot about him. I'm excited to see what Chen Xuan and Kedu can do.
It definitely is going to be an exciting game to watch because we've already seen what ZZZ, what Faye can do. Suman had impressive performances in Split 1, hasn't lived up to the test, so to speak, of Split 2, unless he's playing Assassins, which you saw him pick up 2 last week.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see whether they do go towards a more of Assassin play. We've seen that ZZZ can play the top lane tanks. I'm sure that Fade has been practicing them. Of course, 7.14, they are so powerful. And in the LPL especially, Fish, we were used to seeing a lot of Protect the AD carry comms with Assassins being on a split push. You know, either a LeBlanc or a Zed, something like that, that can help get access to one of the backline threats. Because if you have 3 people protecting an AD carry and one of the threats dies, it's very hard to get through the remainder of the help.
I mean, going down to the bottom lane, Kedu and Chen Xuan, we saw K-pop come in, didn't do too well. Decoy looked all right for Regicide. But Vicarious has been very outspoken that Chen Xuan is their more aggressive support. Chenny Boy was definitely a more passive player, so curious to see how Kedu is going to play with his support that he's teamed back up with. They're up against Blinky and Jake, who have had an off season so far in Split 2.
Certainly have through picks ban Kha'Zix, Maokai, as well as Thresh, Cho'Gath, Zac. I mean, so many power picks left available. Mid lane champion pool between Triple and Suman, completely untouched. Not to mention, you know, the likes of all the support pool apart from Thresh still being open. So Kalista as well as Rakan, both open as well. So this is a really open game so far.
It certainly is. AV prioritized the AD carry pick of Caitlyn for Blinky. Regicide are going to pick up Alistar, Chen Xuan's most famous champion, but probably something you don't see first picked too often.
Yeah, you don't normally see blind Alistars. It's not really got that much of a priority. I think that, you know, Rakan just does what he does a little bit better. And Decoy was playing an okay Rakan last week. Definitely not on the rogue level that we saw absolutely popping off all over Summoner's Rift.
And the second pick for Regicide seems like they're going to go towards this Gragas pick.
Oh!
No, what? Instead, they pick up Graves, a champion we have not seen in forever Spawn.
Yeah. I mean, is it going to be a lethality Graves? Is a Dusk Blade coming out? How deep down the rabbit hole do we go? That's interesting. Fade is a big farm jungler. Not all that surprised.
And this is with, as you mentioned, Zach, Cho'Gath, Jace still left open.
I mean, but if AV play a real heavy disengage comp, you can see why Regicide kind of want to break the meta a little bit, because Janna's going to wreck all of those tanks stay. She's going to be able to, you know, ensure that the Caitlyn remains safe and be able to kite out. And I think that there is an opportunity to play, well, that's just full disengage coming out of AV. To play more of a scrappy, you know, mid-range comp as opposed to a dive comp that tanks rely on.
Let's see if AV do pick up Gragas as their pick of choice. It can still be flexed between Series and Sybil. You know, Sin a big priority towards that Gragas flex, but instead
Zach.
They go Elise. I mean, Zach is Sybil's most famous champion. Elise close behind it.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, known for his Elise, Rengar, and Zach when he first came in. Sybil, big player of all three of them, but I think this is a little bit strange. I mean, now we have a relatively squishy lineup. Ash going to be joining down the bottom lane for Kedu. I mean, I thought he was going to go towards a hyper carry, but if there's no tanks to shred fish, there's not really all that much reason to pick something like a Cogmore.
Ash Alistar against Caitlyn Janna.
That's a kill lane. I mean, if you hit an arrow, someone will die. I can pretty much guarantee that.
Well, Regicide are going to get their 2 bans heading into the second ban phase. We'll have to see what they take away. Cassidy banned out towards triple.
Maybe we're going to just see a blind pick Corki for CMM there. And save the top lane pick for ZZZ. We talked about it a little bit on the analyst desk, but when you have such strong solo lanes and you're going into like the strongest point of AV in triple, and one of the points that, you know, maybe has underperformed in the last couple of weeks in series, where do you want to attack and like what actually do you want to achieve is going to be a hard choice for that man on your screen, Vicarious. I expect him to blind pick a mid laner here after 2 mid lane bans and then lock ZZ in a hard counter pick, something that can split push for days. Especially if he has something in store for Series' Renekton, which you would have to think that Series would blind. Something like a Gnar would really suit ZZZ's playstyle.
Well, let's see what Regicide decide to do, because the second ban phase consists of 4 mid lane bans. A Blanc and Vladimir targeted out towards Human. That's the pick we're talking about with the 3 bans taken away from Regicide. The Jace pick has not been picked up by either side. We saw Legacy pick it up in one of the few draft phasals left through, but Jarvan is the pick of choice, probably for ZZZ, but we have seen Regicide flex this as a jungler.
This is why you never love Fish, because all of a sudden they just betray you. So that is going to be a top lane locked in. I thought that they would go with Human's top champion in the mid, but instead they're just confident in ZZZ's ability to be able to punish a lane. Series played Wukong last week, I believe.
He tried
Talon top lane. No, he definitely did play it, Fish. Whether he played it to success or not, I will leave to the pundits of Reddit and Twitter to tell me. But he locked it in. See whether he plays something like a Talon. He likes the lethality changes. However, this is a very squishy lineup all of a sudden.
Yep. Triple's going to pick up Talia as his mid lane pick of choice into Suman, who still has not shown what champion he's taking to Summoner's Rift. And as you mentioned earlier, should be this Renekton for Series, or is it? Is the Monkey King coming back? Probably not, as Renekton does get locked in eventually for Series.
I mean, it makes sense because they need a tank. And they played Wukong with Duskblade, which isn't going to be tanky at all. Wukong can get tanky. I mean, if you go Sunfire Cape, have his passive, which of course increases his MR and armor the more champions are around him. He's a pretty tanky dude, but not building that way. It was just full damage last time around. I was going to say Talia pretty safe blind pick at the moment because Cassiopeia is gone, who's kind of the hard counter in the laning phase at least. But you can see Ahri locked in, gets some legitimate kill threat.
It's Human's most promising champion that we've seen in the OPL. He's very comfortable on Ahri. It's one of his pocket picks. Excited to see how he does against Triple, who's been a rock for AV in the past 2 splits.
And, you know, double tank comp coming out here, and ZZZ and Chen Chuan going to have it with a lot of damage on the side of Regicide. And just an all-round pick comp with some flair of disengage, but not really all that much. So Ash Arrow going to need to be on point here for Kedu. And I think that Regicide have put together an okay draft. I'm not really a fan of the Graves jungle, not going to lie, but everywhere else seems okay.
Very curious to watch this Graves into Elise matchup, because we have not seen it in a while. Elise generally can punish junglers who don't clear very fast, but Graves is not one of those champions.
Yeah, he clears really quick, like incredibly quick.
Incredibly healthy as well.
Yeah, so Elise probably going to go Moby Boots rush and try and punish the fact that Graves is going to be in the jungle so much and look to get off some ganks. The problem with playing that playstyle is kind of like the Elise into Nidalee old school matchup is that if your ganks fail and she takes all your camps, then you're in like a load of trouble. And we'll see whether that is going to be the case, as Fade has picked up Graves and will be able to farm incredibly quickly.
But Sybil is very well known about his Elise pick, so we'll have to see how he does in the jungle for AV, who had a disappointing week last week against Abyss, and they definitely want to try and bounce back here.
And I mean, we have to call it out, because if they lose this game, all of a sudden AVC season might as well be over. They're going up against the Chiefs, I believe. No, they're not. They must be tomorrow, potentially. So. Yeah, going up against the Chiefs tomorrow. So we'll see whether, you know, they're able to turn this around. Chiefs, of course, also coming off a loss against Legacy in pretty devastating fashion. But you would have to say that Legacy look like a more impressive outfit than Abyss right now. So everything up in the air, Fish, in the OPL.
It certainly is, and we'll get on to Summoner's Rift for the first match of today. But before we get into the action, let's check in with the coach of AV, Pinch, who's standing by with Sarah-Ann.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Pinch, the coach from Avant. Last week, some of your players tweeted out that they were pretty disappointed with the loss against Abyss. So how has that loss affected your preparation coming into the second Super Week?
Sure. I think we learned a lot from last week. Losing definitely humbled us to the idea of what actually constitutes good practice. We won a lot of games last week in scrims. We didn't win on the weekend, and we've moved from that.
Cool. And onto this game. We know that Jake has a wide champion pool, but why did you pick the Janna so early on into the draft?
Janna does really well into Alistar. We were very prepared for them to pick it. Jake's really proficient on the champion, and it just helped peel our Caitlyn and carriers later. Great.
Well, thanks for chatting to us, and best of luck with the series.
Thanks so much.
There you go. AV trying to bounce back from their loss last week, and Janna into Alistar. It's quite, after Regicide's draft the past few weeks with Chen, it's quite obvious they're going to pick up the Alistar. Let's see how well it does. Already they're posturing very aggressively towards Blinky and Jake.
Yeah, everyone's starting in lane. Not really all that much surprise, but Kedu gets chunked out nice and early. It does have a Doran shield, so not going to be the most massive deal. What I do want to say, however, is after listening to me fumble through interviews all weekend, I'm very glad that we have someone specifically to do them, Fish. Much better interview that I had to offer.
Oh, goodness. Already, though, this game, it's been quite a brawl between the two. Series and ZZ are going at it in the top side of that. We saw damage being chunked down on towards the Ash. ZZ just wants to fight. This is a level 1 Renekton he's bullying out.
Yeah, exactly right. And you can see that Series has already had to burn his potion. So even though he has some sustain in the lane, it's going to be 3 charges of Corrupting Pot, 2 left available. And this is becoming an interesting top lane matchup already. This is an area that I know Juves and Jish were interested to see how Regicide attack.
And I mean, we've seen ZZ play top lane so many times in the matchups that he should lose, and he comes out ahead.
Yep, every time he's played in the OPL, he's played top lane Fish. You were correct.
Thanks, Mon.
No worries. I'm here to provide the hard facts about the game. You know, color casting is my role. Interestingly enough, that Ali went Targon still and didn't go Coin. I've seen a little bit more often in solo queue now that people will go Coin, pretty much exclusively in a lot of matchups. Just for a little bit of extra sustain, although Targon's going to help with the last hitting underneath these turrets. There you can see they ping out exactly where Fade is. He's doing a full clear. He has taken every camp so far, as has Sybil.
Good warding coming out from AB to spot this out. Sybil, I don't believe, has walked over any wards just yet, so he's still invisible in the jungle. Fade will eventually clear out that camp. Start on his red buff, which has been warded as well, and that's a fresh ward too that has been placed down.
Yeah, didn't quite catch who made that ward. You'd have to expect it was the Elise, because no one else would have really been able to get in there. So you can see Fade, 100% health, has used his potions as is expected as a jungler, but doing quite nicely. Top lane, Wave pushing into ZZZ and does have the CS lead, although there's a couple of caster creeps there, Fish. Small army starting to build, so it will push back.
Have to think ZZ's very happy with his current position. We are on the bottom lane. Alice going to take a chunk of damage here from Blinky and Jake, already pushing Kato as well as Chun back in underneath the safety of their turret.
Yeah,
oh, that's a flash forward. Trying to lock Blinky down. Will he get the stun? He does. Ignite's going down. No turret shots coming out for Regicide, but Kato still very healthy. Charging forward. He's going into the mini wave. Sybil's here as well. They have to be careful. They're going to back out. Very aggressive from Regicide.
That's a huge play out of Regicide's bottom lane. All of a sudden, though, they're going to get dove for multiple members. That is 4 members of AV down in this bottom lane. Can they outplay? They have no summoner spells apart from Kedu's flash.
They know it's coming, so they have to try and stop this one. Do they try and go for the fight? They do. Teleport's being channeled by the Java. Chen goes in with a double knock-up. ZZ is here, gets a knock-up himself, but first blood will be picked up by Triple. Repel comes out of Sybil onto the blast cone, knocks ZZ back, and AV with a great play.
Yeah, a little bit strange there. Kedu also steps onto a trap and takes big damage. I feel like if you're going to teleport in there, Suman has to rotate over. and he did not. He stayed in the top lane. He's shoving in a big wave. So now ZZZ really misses out here because Fade is going to have to trim this wave. It's going to at least be the cannon going down, if not a couple of the range creeps. It's going to push back. And that puts Series in a position where he can actually hold his teleport and walk back into this lane fish. And a kill over to triple is certainly a good news story for AV's win condition, if the desk is to be believed.
Yeah, Suman doesn't even get a big CS advantage from that, just a small experience lead over triple. And already AV with a great map play. Triple heads up high on the rotation.
Cool, so let's talk about Triple's item build a little bit. He goes Boots, wants to obviously roam around, as we've already seen. Boots 2, of course. Carbon explains them very aptly as additional GP10. I'm going to expect him to go into a very quick Banshee's Rush as well, Fish. Just to be able to keep himself alive in that mid lane. And then into something like a Leandry's, just to be able to help out with that persistence damage. Thalia has very low mana cost. Doesn't need to go for a Morellicon straight away if she doesn't want to. Of course, CDR is always nice on AP mages, but has much more flexibility.
Well, we'll have to keep track and see what Triple picks up later on. His opponent, Suman's gone back only an Amp Tome with Double Ring. However, I want to draw attention to the bottom lane again. 36 CS to 20 at the moment. Big advantage coming in for AV.
That's nice from Suman.
Yeah,
he steps forward.
Stands his ground, dodges out the cocoon, and gets a good trade against Triple.
It's always nice when you step into a skill shot and you're able to dodge it, Fish. You do have to point out they got 4 man. I'm sure they had a teleport come down here, but the damage was already kind of done. So it's not really the fault of the duo lane that they're down this far. That's more, I think, the mid laner deciding to stay exactly where he is. Let's see, Fade wants to get aggressive, tries to challenge for the Raptors. I think he got 2. Still has a slight CS lead over Sybil.
We'll spot him out with the Scrying Orb. Sybil knows exactly where he is. And
That's aggressive. When Talia's nearly level 6 and the duo lane has a quicker area to rotate. Stepping into it is...
Hello.
Yep. Cool. So ult was used from ZZZ.
Yeah, meanwhile,
probably wants to force him to teleport back here, Fish.
He might go for a fight. Dominus is up for Series.
Yeah,
Spots him out with the
fight
flag.
a Dominus Renekton. Not when he has half the rage buff.
ZZZ just playing passive there. There's the Dominus being popped by Series. He'll slice into the wave, gets a big heal from his Q, and goes for the challenge against ZZ, who will flag and drag out. Gets out alive, but now he's going to be careful of the dive because Series has rage and is chasing beyond the turret. Will he go on top of him? Instead, going to take some damage because the Dominus has to flash forward. Does he get enough healing? He will get the kill, but will fall for it as well.
Yeah, so they trade summoner spells. I think that's definitely worth from Series because not only does it send a message to arguably the best player, as a bench one.
Yeah, they're going for a bit of a trade down here.
Don't
Stun does not come out from Alistar. He is not level 6. Exhausted and slowed down. Sybil flashes for the kill and picks it up for AV.
Yeah, and that was a little bit strange because even though we had 2 people near the blue buff Fish, they weren't coming to help him. And one more time, he dives into the team, looks to get some work done, and this is going to be an 8-minute turret nearly, which is super early in the game.
They turn on to Fade, who was just here to help with wave clear. Sybil pops him. Everyone on the bottom lane for AV is on the same page at the moment. They're going to try and chase out this Ashe as well. Like you said, a sub 8-minute turret. They're 3,000 gold in the lead.
Yeah, that's a 3,000 gold lead, and all of a sudden, an area of AV that we've questioned in recent weeks is getting some help from the rest of their team, and is looking very good, to the point that they've even rotated in the Renekton. That's a miss charm.
Yeah, Suman goes aggressive against Triple there, pops his own ultimate.
Little bit of a whiff Fish, not going to lie. Even if it hit, don't think you were dead, but you at least want to get the cleanse out in that situation.
Triple's even gone back and picked up a lost chapter for himself, so he'll have enough mana to sustain himself in this lane.
Not sure about that one, because blue buff's up and available, and you can see he's full mana already. I don't think the lost chapter is a necessary purchase anymore. Although it could be wrong. I'm sure there is angry mid laners everywhere tweeting at me. You can see that they've swapped the lanes on their head.
Yep, so they've sent Caitlyn and Janna top side of the map. Series helped out in the mid lane before moving down towards the bottom side. I mean, if there's any saving grace for Regicide, it's that their bottom lane is a utility-based bot lane. So they'll still provide that in the later team fights. Blinky and Jay definitely be more damage-oriented.
Yeah, also going towards Blade of the Ruined King means they're just going to spike earlier, Fish. We talk about it a lot, but i.e. Caitlyn, very good at 2.5, 3 items, you know, full Zeal item plus a second Zeal item maybe. Whereas Ashe is just going to be good at Bork, and then she'll be good at Bork Hurricane as well. So it's not the most massive deal. She'll definitely get outscaled as the game progresses. Sybil and Faye going to clash one more time.
Hawkshot does spot them out. Fade's moving towards top side of the map. They're pinging to go in.
Yeah,
Arrow is
everyone else
up.
is rotating.
Throws it. That's going to be a flash forward coming out from Chen Shen. Will knock back the Caitlyn. Jake falls first. Teleports cancelled. Blinky going to be the next target. Double kill picked up by
And meanwhile, bottom lane, there's also a fight, although Suman in trouble.
He's going to take quite a ton of damage here. Rock throw comes out. Dodged out by Suman, but Triple follows through. Predicts the flash. We'll get another kill.
Yeah, you can see that ZZZ and Fade had a scruffle. CZZ and Series had a scuffle here. It was actually a cancelled teleport. So a 2-for-1 trade overall. Definitely good news story right now for the Regicide lineup. Wow, we're going to have a Gunblade Ari in the mid lane.
Ooh.
Or a Proto Belt. I like to think Gunblade Fish.
Let's see what he does pick up. Protobell a little bit more standard on the RE, you have to think.
Is it?
That's what I've seen on most champions with that many dashes.
Yeah, I feel like an extra dash isn't really going to help you out all that much.
Well, let's see what he decides
Doesn't need
to
the
pick up.
wave clear or anything like that. And I feel like the point click slow, especially if he's going to whiff every charm he goes for, will be useful. Collapse on the top lane.
That's a lot of members of AV going up. Wall has been built by Triple. Fade is sitting in and they've got a teleport coming in, but he dashes into the rock mines, shoved back and sniped up by Blinky. AV pick up a fight. CZZ does use his ultimate straight into the backlines on top of Triple and draws the attention of Jake as well as Blinky. They're going to chase him down. They get good damage on that. A couple of autos is enough. Blinky goes forward. He doesn't have enough range to take him down. Blows his flash. ZZZ lives.
What a strange flash. I mean, Blinky goes in. He's out of range. He's not going to be able to catch him with just a brown bags, and it is going to be Fade living. At the same time, though, 1-for-1 trade, and another turret's going to fall down on the top lane. It will be a 4,000 gold lead, and AV is playing this early game incredibly well. You can see that Fade kind of damaged himself a little bit there, Fish. He dashed through the E available from Talia. Took a lot of damage. Definitely will take a look at that one and think probably the wrong call.
Yeah, it's going to be Rift Herald that started off by AV off the back of that, so they get a lot from it.
So let's take a look at it again. So Fade right here dashes in and takes half of his health in damage through his own E. Generally with Talia, if you're Graves, you want to flash on it. And you want to be able to do all of your damage, although now the collapse has come.
Yep, they're going for a fight. Suman lands a charm onto Blinky, dashes over the wall. Blinky follows through. We'll get good damage out, but Sirius is here to save the day. Picks up that kill. Blinky still lives. Rift Herald, however, has been picked up by Regicide.
No flash.
They're still looking for a fight. Blinky still trying to fight with next to no health. Chen Shen goes in. Good damage. Kata's going to fall first. Fade comes back in. He wants this fight. Going to go straight on top of Sybil. ZZZ gets that kill. Series gets a double in the back lines. That's the rock field being thrown down by Triple. Stops ZZZ from dashing anywhere. And AV will get an ace against Regicide.
Yeah, really nice fight out of AV. That's the 5,000 gold lead. And you can see that Regicide, they're just a go team at the moment, Fish. They want to continue going forward, but they absolutely cannot because it's going to be a massive Talia. And the huge benefactor of that last team fight was Series. He picked up the triple kill. He's now 4-1-1. And on the Renekton, looking very scary as this game progresses.
All the carries in AV have massive item pickups after that fight. IE already completed by Blinky. Not even a Blade of the Ruined King for Kato yet, just sitting on one of the components of that item. Black Cleaver already picked up by Series. Jungle item finished by Sybil as well as Boots 2. And Haunting Guise being picked up by Triple already.
And you can see Chen Shen definitely wants to fight. Every single time we see him, he's aggressively going in. And sure, they stole the Rift Herald here. And this was actually a kind of good start to the fight out of Regicide because it looks like Blinky's going to die, but he just lives on the edge of the fight. And then with that information, they shouldn't continue it. Everyone should be trying to get out here. Instead, they continue. Kedu and ZZZ re-engage. Fade flashes a wall to try and pick up a kill. And unfortunately for the Regicide lineup, they're just fish in a barrel right now. They're just absolutely getting lined up and shot down.
And they're going for a fight again in the bottom lane. Teleport is being channeled by Series, but Blinky's the first one to fall. They turn their attention towards ZZZ. He drops instantly after a Cocoon is thrown out by Sybil. 1-for-1 trade there.
I mean, not the worst trade. If you're behind and you can trade up, always good. But at the same time, Dragon will go down. By trade up, I mean they got the teleport as well as the equalized kill. ZZZ is falling down 2 levels first. Even though he's only, 16 CS down, the 2 levels of experience means he can never really challenge this Renekton in the side lane.
Jarvan is one of those champions that needs a level advantage to get ahead. That's why we don't see him too much in the jungle anymore.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Zkedu, they're just trying to dodge out. Billy's thrown out by Triple. He's 4-1-2. A shove from that champion would kill him instantly. But Regicide now 8 or close to 8,000 gold behind AV. They do have Rift Herald in their back pockets, but they really have to stop the bleeding somehow because 40
Rift
minutes
Herald's
in.
only useful if you go onto their side of the map. You can't really drop it in any position they're in right now in the lane.
drop a mid lane, just a big minion to stall them.
Yeah, potentially. You can see that they're posturing aggressively for Siuman's lane again. Talia can wall off, as well as the fact that they've got 4 members already here fit. So they need to be careful. Top lane has dropped Rift, yeah.
Yeah, very far behind though, so that might have been just a reaction to the 5-man squad of AV in the bottom lane. Fade's not even come down to help them. He's moving top lane at the moment. Now we'll finally recall. It seems like ZZZ wants to push through with this Rift Herald, get as much equalized gold as possible, but AV have their eyes set towards inhibitor turrets.
Recall again. It's going to cost them pretty big here, Fed.
So, wall has been built by Triple, stops the rest of Regicide from defending this mid lane inner turret. So that's 2 inner turrets being picked up by AV in this trade. ZZ will only get 1 with the help of the Rift Herald.
It looks like he's going to get his recall cancelled as well. That could actually mean his death if they rotate up to this top side of the map quickly. Instead, stops for the Scuttle Crab. That was always tasty.
So we'll get 1 final charge, but that's just additional damage onto the top lane inner turret. Nothing too much for Regicide, and they fall further and further behind. Really approaching 9,000 gold lead for AV at the moment. You can see a lot of that lies in the mid lane, as well as on the top side of the map between the jungler and top laner, but Triple is the one that is incredibly far ahead. 2,500 gold up over Siuman.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big deal right there, as well as the fact that there's a 2,000 gold lead for Jake, so all the utility going to be provided for the Avant gaming lineup is certainly a massive deal. And it looks like Blinky and Jake really did come to play. They had a strategy built around them of attacking this new bottom lane that was put together from Regicide, and it makes a lot of sense.
And we know as well, Jake runs double gold per 10 runes, both on his yellows as well as his quints. If he's done that this game, that Janna's going to be would have a lot of money in her back pocket at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, that should mean that you die a couple of times. I mean, that's pretty much all your armor and magic resist you're giving up as a Janna. A little bit of cooldown reduction generally may be picked up there as well, but you can see it is working out. Also, interestingly enough, Triple has gone no magic resistance in his build against an assassin Ahri. And Siuman's delayed his first major item pickup by actually going back and grabbing himself a needlessly large rod.
Yep, that's a statement coming out from Triple, and I am not quite sure what Siuman's trying to do with this one. Probably just needs a burst of AP to try and hold on to this game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for the wave clear fish, because he feels like he's stuck under turrets right now. I've seen, you know, strange pivots like that before. Yeah, he's going for Gunblade.
Ooh. Good QSS.
No, it's Mikhail's.
Well played by Jake there. Ash Arrow will charge through. No one from Regicide gets a pick.
This isn't helping Siuman out. The fact that every now and again, Fade helps out with the wave clear by taking 3/4 of the minions. You can see not going for any lethality. In fact, going for the Black Cleaver is his second item. So I don't really understand how that would force Graves back into the meta. Hasn't worked out so far, although 2-3-3.
Ooh, Siuman getting locked down top side of the map. Steps on a trap there, and wall's being built by Triple. Regicide need to get a couple members over here to clear out these waves if they want to defend this turret, but shove back from Triple gets a kill. Chunshren's so low, he's forced to flash out. Fades the next target, their exhaust coming through, and there's a big crocodile on the back lines. Cataclysm being popped by ZZZ, but it doesn't matter. Series on the back lines, he's going to get 2. Triple's already got 3 for himself, and that's going to be an ace picked up by AV.
Yeah, and that just might be game over, Fish. It's 10,000 gold at 17 minutes in. And AV with a statement game is absolutely wiping the floor of Regicide right now. Regicide look like they want to be aggressive, but really nothing they have done is working.
It's an 11,000, close to 12,000 gold lead for AV. They're only going to get this mid lane inhibitor taken down, as well as top lane inner turret. They decide not to push for the win without their team, but still, they're just so far ahead. It doesn't seem like there's anything Regicide can do in this match.
Exactly right. You can talk about a team that spikes early, you know, not going to need as many items with the tankiness of Alistar, ult, and things like that. But when you're 12,000 gold ahead, you just don't spike. You can see it's all started by Siuman taking a lot of damage and then not wanting to ult over this wall. Fantastic placement from Triple. He sees the shove coming out. He stands there. He dies. And unfortunately, that means the rest of the team is going to follow, because when you're this far ahead, you can just go aggressive whenever you want to.
Certainly can. You can even see there's ZZ throwing all his damage onto Jake. A single ultimate from Janna negates everything that ZZ tried to do. Ace was picked up by AV in that fight. 12,000 gold in the lead. Less than 20 minutes into this game.
You can see that Jake actually goes back and he buys himself the QSS, because he's very cognizant of the fact the only way Regicide get a sniff at all in this game. There's a Sybil, puts a trap down.
Whew, that hurt. Red buff got a few auto attacks in there as well. Sybil has to be a bit careful. Keto will pick up the red buff.
And Keto, 0-2-4, not having the best game. And what I was going to say about Jake's QSS is he knows that if a charm hits him or an arrow hits him, he is a sitting duck. He needs the ultimate to be able to reset the fight. But also, he's the person that is holding in the chaos. So if he gets stunned up, being able to QSS out, be able to use the Mikhails on someone else to make sure they're safe, certainly a good choice.
We used to see this on Tom Kench's quite a lot.
Yeah.
We still do from time to time, but Jake with the heads up play, he knows that his team is ahead in gold. He can afford luxurious items like that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 3,000 gold ahead as a support, you can build whatever the heck you want.
Yeah, come on, get a Mercurial Scimitar. Next item, Jake, do it. 7,000 gold. He's got more gold than anyone on the side of Regicide.
Certainly does. Still don't think he wins a 1v1 though. Johnson being a little bit careful here. Knows that Triple is in the area somewhere. Wants him to go aggressive. Triple has QSS, so I think that he wins the 2v1, to be brutally honest.
Damage in the mid lane coming out.
He's going to take the big one.
He doesn't get the shove, but still gets good damage on the Fade. He's forced to use his ultimate. The second rock throw comes out. That's on a very low cooldown. They can't get the final tick of damage to kill Fade. That would have been a one-shot if that shove hit.
Yeah, it certainly would have been. He's an absolute monster at the moment, Triple, and that's just going to be a 3-man Baron started up. They've chunked out Fade. I mean, potentially, ZZZ looks... Nah. They threw an arrow at it.
And it hit Blinky.
Nah. Meme dead. He's 2-2-7. He's having a pretty good game.
Him and Jake are having a really good game, but Patel decides to success. It was just a low-hanging fruit spawn, unfortunately. Regicide, this game is definitely going to be open. They need a miracle to try and come back into this one.
I think they need a couple of miracles. They need a miracle to delay this one for another 10 minutes. Then they need a couple of miracle team fights to be able to pull anything back. And you can just see it's not easy at all at the moment for Regicide.
And maybe just forced. They sent a teleport from series top side of the map. Charm connects onto Chunshun as Suma's been locked out of his base again. That's a teleport from ZZZ.
He's going to die. Yeah, he can.
Forces the cancel. That was from his base. ZZ just teleported from his base to a couple of range.
You may as well use it, Fish. There's not going to be many other opportunities to be able to use summoner spells this game.
Teleport into bottom lane, deny a pentakill at least. Come on, ZZ. Get your shit together. Come on.
I mean, ZZ actually had an okay game, to be honest. It was a bottom lane that got really picked on. And I think that Suman has continued his slump just a little bit.
And it was strange because he's on Ari, a champion that we said he'd be very comfortable on, and he did look comfortable on Assassins last week in their victory over TM. And there's ZZ. He's gone for a bit of a split push, but Series is right behind him with Triple.
He's got to grab the wave, yeah. Keep going.
Here comes the Baron buff. Triple is a very fast man when he rock surfs.
Run away, Simba. Run away and never come back.
If you get a couple of minions, they seem very happy with this one. Triple's still chasing him. He's going to do something. He gets tagged up by the rock throw.
He's gone.
Oh, that's dead. That's a dead job. And he's still trying to put on the Duke fancy shoes. Triple is throwing rocks in the wrong direction, just shepherding ZZZ closer towards his base. We'll check into that one later. Fade almost gets hit by Wild Cocoon.
You can see that whilst this chase is going on, they are kind of stalling out the game for a little bit.
Well, they're going for a fight. Blinky taking a lot of damage. Healed up to near the full coming out from his support. Blinky still hanging on, gets the first kill in this fight. Tries to snipe out the Ash from downtown, and AV will pick up an inhibitor turret for that.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, they're able to grab Suman, even though it was an engage started off from Regicide. It looked like they were going to be able to blow up Blinky, but in the end, does not work. And you will not catch ZZZ today, but you will be able to end the game if you're AV.
AV are looking to try and push on towards the final Nexus turrets. They get a couple more kills here. Tren's going to be another one that falls. Series almost dies here to the back lines of the Ash, but not enough damage coming out from Regicide. And it's a one-sided affair in game number 1. ZZZ has somehow made his way back into the game, wants to kill Sybil, will get some consolation prize for himself after he escapes the gang, but still, AV pick up a very decisive one-sided victory.
Absolute shellacking, Fish. 23-minute victory. Only one turret falling down, which is going to be the top lane turret. And really, AV from start to finish dominated their opponents that game. They had a good strategy coming in. They read the Alistar. They knew they could push into it. And all the utility in the world could not save the bottom lane of Regicide. And you can see Fade right there. He's not looking all that happy.
You have to think of Chunshun. He made a very aggressive play on Alistar. if he headbutted Blinky into turret range.
Yep.
Different story. That could have been...
Couldn't get behind him.
Could have been a double kill being picked up by them, but as you mentioned, could not. And AV, their weakest point that we've talked about for an entire split, looked very strong today against Regicide.
I mean, they brought 4 members down into that lane. When you have the mid laner rotating at level 4, when you have the jungler down there as well, it is going to certainly help Blinky and Jake out. They did nearly get 2v2 killed, but at the end of the day, I mean, it didn't go through. They come through, and they're able to knock down all the outer turrets.
Yep.
And with that, pick up a very solid victory.
And potentially we could see more of this coming out from AV, where they, you know, weaken their top side, so to speak, by using a lot of their resources bottom lane, help Blinky and Jake out early.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, we already know the fact that Jake loves to play Janna. That's going to give them a level of safety and a level of disengage. And then if they're going to continually put Blinky on hyper carries to pair up with that, they certainly need to be able to give them some help. So I think that's a lane we'll see again. It's about whether Regicide therefore respect the rotation and match it with their mid laner, because that's not good enough. You can't stay home and, you know, just grab an 8 CS lead as an Ahri. That's not a good way to play League of Legends.
No, but we even saw Keto, you know, his first game played in the OPL, didn't have an impressive standout performance. He was okay, but getting dove by 4 members of AV, not the
I mean, mate, if
not
you
the
lose
best
a game
start.
in 23 minutes, no one plays okay. You go back behind closed door, you try and figure out what exactly went wrong, because something went wrong on multiple levels for you to get beaten that badly.
Yeah, I mean, it was a one-sided affair. It's about 15,000 gold up. But to tell us what exactly went wrong in that game, we're going to send it back to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, casters. Well, Jish and Juves, it appears that the talk about AV being a shaky team and Regicide maybe coming up was perhaps premature, because that was a as Jake said, an absolute shellacking.
Yeah, I was halfway through my coffee and I was like, oh wait, I've got to go downstairs now. No, that was a really good game from AV.
Yeah.
I think obviously the couple recent losses, you know, have spurred them into a bit of action, and they look pretty clean today.
Yeah, that was a big statement game from AV. I really like the proactivity around the map.
It's a word.
It's a word. I really like the way that level 4, they just didn't rest on like being in lane and winning lane, because they obviously had the better 2v2 bot lane, just the matchups of the champs. And they said like, okay, like how can we push this even further? Yeah, level 4, let's get our mid laner to our own bot, and that just set the pace for the whole game.
It wasn't just the mid lane, it was mid laner and jungle as well. There's four people bot lane early on, and if you're Regicide then, I mean, you saw Ali kind of roaming, trying to get out from behind the tower, then the teleport came and he's trying to get back. It was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, so it's like one of those matchups where the Alistair sort of has to do something, right? If he just sits under turret, they're going to lose their turret just naturally. So he really has to go in and make an engage. And credit to Avant, because they timed it well with... Talia was always going to get the shove in mid lane against Ahri, and she was able to walk down. Sybil made his path to head towards bot lane. So, you know, all 4 of them arrived then when Alistair forced his play, and they capitalized on it.
The thing is, even though AV took an early lead, Regicide is still looking pretty proactive, trying to make things happen.
Yeah, so I guess I want to start by saying there was a fight in particular where AV, they start the Rift Herald, and Regicide, like, they look to contest it, so props to them. They shoot an arrow. I think the problem here, they all went a little bit too early. So Ahri's already in there using his burst, 1v3ing. Jarvan's not there yet. Talia's got the flank on your backline, so Talia's literally just free hitting your backline. And Jarvan arrives now, and it's just too late. Regicide get the Rift Herald, sure, that's nice. But at the end of the day, I would not take an ace for a Rift Herald.
Yeah, and, you know, and they've just timed it slightly poorly, and they've committed a little bit too many resources. Like, you see Fade flash into the back end of that fight. And I think that they just need to realize that if they want to contest it, it all has to be like, you know, the same front come in as 5 and then punish them quite heavily. Because we saw a few times, you know, the casters have said that the bottom lane played really well, but we actually saw Blinky get caught out like 4 or 5 times. And so, you know, I don't think that it was infallible. It was maybe just the execution, you know, and once they fell behind, it was really hard, but, you know, they definitely had the opportunities. You know, maybe if they timed that better with their engage, if Jarvan's there earlier, there's like a more realistic contest.
I do want to kind of like point out some positives for Regicide. Like, for example, they actually did pick up the Rift Herald buff once they killed the Rift Herald, Jish.
That's a positive, I guess. Yeah, no, they slayed the Rift Herald.
Well, just some people...
They slayed the Rift Herald.
Yeah, but
they
some-
picked up the buff.
Yeah.
Sam, pick up the buff. No, I don't know. That's a I mean, yeah, I have nothing now, I guess. I can't really roast them for it when I can't even use the Rift Herald button. And when I do, he uses over the wall backwards anyway.
All right.
Yeah, no, okay. So there were... No, sorry, you're just really angry. I'm really angry. No, there were some positives, you're right.
Yes.
I think that we saw that the drafting was pretty decent to get them
From who?
to get that counter pick for mid, but I think, you know, the one issue they had was that the one issue they had was that they first pick Ali and then they take the Graves, which they had no bans. There was a lot of like strong champions up. They gave over release. So I think that maybe if we see them with a better ban, some of that early skirmishing and things like that, maybe they have something to rest on.
I'm just going to be blunt about it. I think Regicide's pick ban was half the reason they lost the game. Obviously they had to play the game, but I think that yeah, like you pick like a terrible matchup bot. First picking Ali is like a no-go zone. Picking Graves in this meta is just a no-go zone, and yeah, it was just.
All right, we will dive deep on into the draft in a second.
Yeah.
But Jish, I know there's a top lane fight you want to talk about.
Yeah,
as
so
well.
I think sort of what really put the final nail on the coffin for Avant was this top lane inner dive, and I think that it's really neat. Sybil blows out the flash early, and it's really sad that doesn't connect, but Triple's already backed him up with the wall, and we just have like. Sirius doesn't have to TP. He just literally walked into mid, and he's like, all right, it's time to go top. He just walks up top. The fight's practically over at this point, but Regicide actually can't get out now, and so like it's do or die really here. Blinky's in the back, just getting a few free shots, almost dies, caught out once again, but he flash heals. There's an exhaust gone down somewhere, I think. But yeah, no, I'm just joking on Blinky at that point. But no, it's just like a really, I guess, like that's the sort of the point where like AV realized that they've got a massive gold lead and they can look to close the game out, and they weren't like afraid, they weren't indecisive. It was nice to them, just like as you said earlier, like they were just proactive at that point.
Didn't look like they were too traumatized from last week. They tried, well, not to put it like that, but they played their game. They were proactive, and yeah, they closed it out cleanly. I don't think that this game it was clean from AV, and that's good to see.
All right, well, let's dive deep now into the draft, because I want to talk about the fact that Regicide didn't have any bans, and the first 3 bans out of AV are Kha'Zix, Maokai, and Thresh. So obviously Thresh aimed towards their new, Regicide's new support player, but Kha'Zix and Maokai, I wouldn't have seen that coming.
So, I mean, we touched on earlier just that the Kha'Zix in the hands of Fade looked really good, and so far we've only seen Shenchuan play the Alistar, which we said he was a really good solo queue player on, and we've seen him play the Thresh, which is obviously competitively more viable, especially in the blind pick. So, taking him off Thresh, they just like force him, I guess, push him towards the Alistar.
Yeah.
Which I think, Juves, you said that was like, I guess, like the first big mistake.
Yeah, so if you're from Regicide's perspective, that AV bot lane really likes that Janna pick.
Yeah.
And I believe they picked Caitlyn pretty early on in the draft, right?
Yeah, they first picked it.
Yeah, and they picked Ali and then Ashe, and Ashe is fine, but it's such a weak lane, and like as me and Jish was talking in the room, you lost tower at 7 minutes. When you lose tower at 7 minutes, you're gonna have a rough time trying to recapture that game, especially with the Talia.
Yeah.
Talia just loves open maps, and they were just punished for it. AV punished really well.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing in the draft is that most of the junglers are left up. We'd seen him have a really good performance on Lee Sin, and obviously currently all the Cinderhawk junglers are really strong. So I guess grabbing that Graves doesn't make heaps of sense, especially when Elise was still sitting open as well, which is Sybil's probably comfort champion next to Zac. By the way, also not banned.
But yeah, so they pick up Graves when Elise and Zac are both up. And
Sejuani, Gragas.
Yeah. And also the things we've seen Fade play a lot of before is, like the Nidalee, whatever that Fade's played before, like that he's felt comfortable on. So that's a strange thing. But then for AV, do you agree that Elise is the good pick over Zac at this point? Or they've got enough tanks that don't need another Zac?
Well, I'll just say that I think Sybil's probably like a 6,000 game Elise player.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense.
Either one is good.
Yeah, so it just makes sense for them to pick Elise. It's comfort. I think they're not scared of Fade Zac. So overall, I'm really happy with like the way AV pick ban this. I think their pick ban was really good, and they knew what Regicide were going to pick, and they picked accordingly.
Yeah, I think the two things maybe as well for the jungle pick is that one, once they've picked Graves, you don't necessarily always want to take something that's going to slowly scale alongside him, because that really helps Graves out. And the other thing as well is they have the Renekton top lane, and at least Renekton is like so scary. Not that they even had to play the top lane, right? But like the top lane dive and pressure you get out of those two champions means Elise makes a lot more sense. And then she also puts Graves on the clock to not let him just free farm.
Well, speaking of Renekton, you just mentioned there, we have a tweet in from Medic for the win. Friend of the show, always tweeting in. Thank you for the tweets about he wants to know who is the best top laner in who is the strongest in top lane at the moment, and who counters Renekton. Well, I can tell you that the answer to the second question is Nah, right? Nah's the counter to Renekton.
King is with the knowledge.
Was this not
Who's the analyst? Should we host? Maybe we should host.
You should be the analyst.
Because you guys have been thinking about it for weeks now. No, you can do it too.
No, you're actually right. Renekton.
Surprising.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes,
I know a thing or two.
Nah is good
read
into
a blog.
Renekton. Nah is good into Renekton, but the reason for picking Renekton into Nah can be because you want to camp it. So like Renekton with anything allows you to dive that. And Nah is very prone to being dove on mini when he's in his mini form. So if you have like a Renekton Elise, you can dive Nah, but in the straight 1v1, Nah will beat Renekton. And to answer the second part of the question, who's the strongest in top lane? I don't think there's a top laner right now that you have to first pick because there's no counter and there's no counter play to it, like when Camille was 100% pick banned. I think there's versatility depending on your comp. I think Jarvan's good, Renekton's good, Kled's fine. Camille can be okay in certain matchups. I don't want to say too much because now Jish is going to get an idea what I want to play on Sunday.
Take it down, take it down.
Yeah, I guess
Kane top lane. There's been some Kane top lanes running around.
No, that sucks. No, I think that, yeah, just to quickly go off the back of that, is that Nara's really good because it beats him in the split 2 later, unless you really itemize heavy for it, but then you can't team fight. Kennen does well into him, AP and AD, I think. I think Rumble, I think if like you lost those other 2 champions, is like okay. Yeah. So it's not as though he doesn't have answers.
2 weeks ago, did we see a Yasuo top? I think
into a Gnar.
Into a
Gnar. Yeah,
not into a Renekton.
No. That's it. Don't do that. Yeah, and I don't think that there is probably a single strongest top laner. You know, maybe some of the flexes at the moment, like we see Maokai go top jungle, we see Jarvan go top jungle,
Jace perhaps.
Cho'Gath.
Jace going top mid.
Yeah, so I think Jace not on a tank, so I'm not going to say it's the strongest champion. Right now, I feel like tank's probably the strongest champion.
Okay.
So probably one of them. But as you've said, most things have answers, and there's reasons to pick a lot of things at the moment.
Hashtag IMOPL if you'd like. If you've got any questions specifically about top lane today for our analysts. But as we get back to this series then, Regicide, what do they need to do to kind of claw it back?
I feel like I say this on the desk every week. Just focus on your pick ban. I mean, I know you didn't have any bans, but there were still options for you. You just cornered yourself into literally losing a bot tower at 7 minutes. If I'm walking back into that room, I'm just saying, okay, like, just give us a strong lane, bot lane. Because Kedu, he hit rank 1 in solo queue. So he's obviously a very good player. Chen Chuan's a good player in his own right. Just pick a strong 2v2 and see if you can take it to AV's bot lane, who's been deemed as one of the weaker middle tier bot lanes in the OPL.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I guess like pick and ban, one of those things that they need to sort of assess like their comp holistically, not like how it works in terms of team fights, but how it was going to lane. So I think that they're going to actually lose priority across all 3 lanes. They're going to get shoved in top, they're going to get shoved in mid lane, and they're going to get shoved in bottom lane. And then they also had like the slower or weaker jungler, I guess. So it's such a suffocating team comp to play against, and they really gave themselves so little room to actually have an early game or to have any avenue for success. And I think that you need to draft yourself like some winning matchups or some shoving lanes and things like that, just to free up your own jungle really.
So if Caitlyn's up, presumably you first pick Caitlyn potentially to give you some sort of advantage.
Caitlyn's one choice, I think. Even just like making sure that, like, even though they counted mid lane, I guess, but they didn't have the shoving mid lanes. So even something like that, like there's small things to get rid of Talia and counter mid lane again. I don't know. They need to have priority in some of their lanes.
Obviously, pick banning is no easy thing to do as well. So we're not just saying like, hey, this whole pick ban was wrong. But I just think that it can be tweaked and it can fix certain things that can make a whole lot of a difference in the game.
I don't know. Jish can do it. I reckon I'd give it a crack.
Yeah, but Jish is the best coach in the world ever.
We play on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, make it happen? All right. Well, with the rotation of us around this desk changing jobs, it is time for us to get into our second game of the day. So let's throw T-Casters. It is Spawn and Fish.
Being channeled by the Java. Chen goes in with a double knock-up. ZZ is here, gets a knock-up himself, but first blood will be picked up by Triple. Throws it. That's going to be a flash forward coming out from Chen. Will knock back the Caitlyn. Jake falls first. Teleports cancel. Blinky going to be the next target. Double kill picked up by Faye.
Meanwhile, bottom lane, there's also a finally Suman in trouble.
He's going to take quite a ton of damage here. Rock throw comes out. Dodged out by Suman, but Triple follows through. Chen goes in. Good damage. Kater's going to fall first. Faye comes back in. He wants this fight. Going to go straight on top of Sybil. ZZ gets that kill. Series gets a double in the back lines. That's the rock field being thrown out by Triple. Stops ZZ from dashing anywhere. And AV will get an ace against Regicide.
Yeah.
Shove back from Triple gets a kill. Chen so low. He's forced to flash out. Fades the next target. Their exhaust coming through. And there's a big crocodile in the back lines. Cataclysm being popped by ZZZ, but it doesn't matter. Series in the back lines. He's going to get 2. Triple's already got 3 for himself. And that's going to be an ace picked up by AV. And it's a one-sided affair in game number 1. ZZZ has somehow made his way back into the game. Wants to kill Sybil. Will get some consolation prize for himself after he escapes the game. But still, AV pick up a very decisive one-sided victory.
Absolute shellacking Fish.